Can Leone save her civilization from a burning planet? Racing against time and the ever-increasing glyph attacks, Leone searches for the remaining portals to the other worlds. With her unique abilities now catalogued and honed even further than she thought possible, she enlists an army of power shapers to aid her in outwitting Alex in his attempted coup at Blue Mountain's tower. Can she find all the portals in time and convince the powers on Earth to accept the human refugees? Millions of lives depend on it. Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. Today's review, as you might have been able to piece together from a variety of hints, is once again a book review. And the book in question is going to be the last book in Andre Jones's Seven Portals trilogy, with a look at the conclusion of this short series. I'll pick you up a little bit. Ripples in Time. And okay, let's see if I can get this framing right again. Yeah, it works. You might have noticed that the wait between the review of the second book and the third book in this series has been a lot shorter than the than the wait between the first and the second book reviews, and that's partly because the second book, for all its flaws, did still make me curious enough to want to check out how this series would conclude. And given I didn't really have any other plans for for this week's video, I thought, yeah, why wouldn't I indulge in it? So that is what I'm doing right now. On a side note, it is somewhat interesting how prolific an author Andre has been. Being retired might have something to do with it, but still, the fact is that this man has been this man's first book came out around the same time I kickstarted my YouTube career, and now almost 4.5 years later, he has 2 trilogies to his name as well as 2 standalones. So if you've been enjoying his books and following up on the Seven Portals trilogy, it is likely you will find a lot more books to your liking. But then again, if you've been following up on the Seven Portals trilogy, it's likely you already knew that. Anyway, you're not here to listen to me talk about the author, you're here to listen to my impressions of the conclusion of his first trilogy. To that extent, I'll start with a TLDW, or a Too Long Didn't Watch, as I typically do. The TLDW of this review is, this book is trucking along, doing its best to present the plot as well as various connected elements, connected elements that make it distinctive. Beyond that, however, I am afraid to say that Andre has lost his touch. Because of the topic he is exploring, he can't really utilize his strengths, and he is very clearly out of his comfort zone of exploratory adventure, which arguably goes to goes some way towards showcasing why it is that why this book, even though it is arguably the most streamlined of this entire trilogy, still comes across as quite disjointed, because he is still trying to utilize different perspectives to tell what is admittedly a pretty simple story. Regardless, there are still plenty of interesting aspects to this world and to this narration. Chief among them, or the one that I think was bound to attract the most attention, is how magic and technology interact within the setting. So if that's the kind of thing that you as a spec-fic reader find particularly fascinating, well, then I can only say that it is very likely that you will in fact enjoy this book. And now that I'm done with the general overview, it's time I delved into some specifics. The plot of this book, as the same as the plots of the previous books as well, follows Leonie, who in the wake of finally being able to return to her homeworld as a result of the actions of the second book, decides to finally after finally making it back to her homeworld, decides to reconnect with the people she left behind, potentially considering restarting her world, or picking up or her life, or picking up where she left off. During her exploration, however, she finds that there is a serious danger looming over her homeworld, and she decides to pick up the role of savior in order to rescue as many people as she can. Unfortunately for her, and for a lot of other people as well, the villains of this trilogy are not only still active, they are in fact kicking their plans into high gear. Of the various aspects of this book, I think the world building is the one that is most interesting and most notable. So that's why I'm going to start with that. And what makes it particularly notable is how Andre is capable of utilizing the elements that he has already established in order to build upon his world. That also requires that he change his focus somewhat, going from the broad strokes of how the society is organized into specifically the niches that the principal characters fall into, thereby also showcasing what these niches are and how they fit within the within the greater setting, which I can't help but find very interesting to explore. Obviously, over the course of this book, there is a meaningful change that occurs over this world, and it is that change that in many ways not just adds a new dimension to the world building, but also kickstarts the main plot of this book. And I am somewhat ambivalent towards this main plot. The first half of which sees the immediate response that various actors or entities have when it comes to when it comes to how they address this problem as an emergency. The second half of the plot, where various characters try to figure out what to do should an emergency like this happen again, is unfortunately where where the story loses me. I think Andre intended for that moment to be something akin to a culmination of the social storyline, where people have a variety of different backgrounds and drop their differences and decide to work together. However, the story he has written up until then doesn't really mesh well with that kind of conclusion, because his world building and his presentation is focused more upon adventures than it is upon societal developments. When prejudice was mentioned, throughout this series, it wasn't really mentioned in terms of what impact it has over the various people, both the ones who are doing the prejudice, but also the ones who are being prejudiced. Nor does it really go into the social, administrative, or legal differences that are either the cause or the effect of these different attitudes, or that describe how these attitudes are perpetuated. Rather, it was always an obstacle used to explain why the author's mixed race main character had certain opportunities barred from her. Because of that, with this new focus, I don't really see characters from a variety of different backgrounds using their combined expertise in order to find the the best possible solution that addresses all their concerns. I rather see people who have an already outsized amount of influence due to their knowledge or wealth uh, coming together to try to solve a puzzle. It reads almost like colonial administrators trying to figure out um, how to keep the masses from dying out, which which given that this offer is Australian, is is a somewhat ironic conclusion to come to. But really, the main problem isn't really some perceived colonial attitude. It's the fact that uh, this development, I really think could have happened at any time because it is not really anchored in any notable world or character development. It really stems from the amount of information that is available, available to the characters, which really could have happened at any point throughout the narration. There is no connection between how the characters receive this information and how the uh, circumstances around them change in such a way as to have this information made available to them, or at least I didn't find there to be that much of a connection. Speaking of character development, I think it is fair to say that the villains have the most of it over the course of this series. Partly because they have already been quite well established throughout the rest of the trilogy, which means that the audience now has a clear understanding of what their goals, their desires, and the ways in which they operate actually are, which which allows them to which allows their intentions to finally become crystallized as they as they take their final steps towards actually making towards actually fulfilling their intentions and their intentions and their goals. When it comes to the other characters, however, there is noticeably less development, but at the very least, I can say that there is no character assassination. Pretty much every named character is still recognizably themselves and does still act in accordance to their established characterization. The main difference, or the main exception to that, is ironically enough the main character Leonie, whose character development is somewhat too illusory for me. I noticed this a little bit in the second book, but but within this book, it becomes quite clear that her character arc from a retiring thief to an enthusiastic hero is really supposedly kicked into high gear, in the sense that she actually goes ahead and does that change. But there isn't really a distinctive or even noticeable character arc that really feeds into that change. There hasn't really been a moment where that switchover occurred, and if that switchover was intended to have been a gradual process, I'm afraid that's perhaps been lost somewhere between drafts, assuming there have been multiple drafts. Overall, while this while this book still has plenty of interesting elements to discuss, and which it presents, and which are bound to attract and hold some readers' attention, the general presentation of these elements doesn't really allow for their doesn't really allow for these elements to really shine through, to really become noteworthy and distinctive. My final rating for Ripples in Time is a 3 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please like the video, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will also like the video. If there is anything you'd like to add, either to the book itself or to my review of it, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My books, the first of my own Heir to the Empire series, The Next Generation and The Path Not Taken, are available at various book retailers under their respective master links in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. I also have a second channel where I talk about whatever crosses my mind, though I'm typically still talking about various narratives, though outside of the printed word. If you want to hear more about my thoughts on printed word media, then I suggest you stay on this channel and go through my extensive backlog of book reviews, writing advice, and miscellaneous other topics. If none of those interest you, then I suggest you go ahead and do whatever you want with the rest of your day, because it is your day after all. And yeah, that was all I had to say. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.